All right, folks, grab your popcorn because today we're diving into 10 of 2024's biggest tech letdowns. From a smart ring that couldn't keep up, a game so bad it got shut down in 2 weeks, to an EV that literally left drivers stranded, and an app that somehow forgot the basics. Let's unpack these disasters one after the other. First, let's talk about the elephant in the tech room. Or should I say, the Apple in the room. The Apple Vision Pro. When it was first announced, everyone thought it was the second coming of, well, the iPhone. But here we are, and it's being called the biggest tech flop of 2024. So, what happened? Let's dive in. WWDC and Tim Cook Apple Vision Pro announcement. Picture this. It's June 2023, WWDC, and Tim Cook is up there doing his thing. He unveils the Vision Pro and the crowd goes wild. I mean, the hardware looked insane. Dual 4K displays, eye tracking, hand gestures, and that sleek design. The tech world collectively lost its mind. This was Apple's first big new product category since the Apple Watch. But here's the thing. Hype can only take you so far. Apple called it the most advanced personal electronics device ever. But what they didn't tell us was that it would cost more than some people's rent. $3,499 for something that makes you look like you're auditioning for a Black Mirror episode. Okay, let's be real. The Vision Pro had some serious potential. Mixed reality is the future, right? But here's the problem. Apple launched it without a proper ecosystem. It's like launching a fancy new console with no games. Sure, the device is powerful, but without killer apps or a reason to use it daily, people just didn't see the point. Even Apple's biggest fans were like, I love this, but I'm not sure why I'd buy it. And don't get me started on the battery life. 2 hours. 2 hours! That's not enough time to finish a Marvel movie. And let's circle back to the price, because we need to talk about it. Now I get it. Apple's never been the budget option, but $3,500 plus tax, plus extra for prescription lenses if you wear glasses, plus maybe an Apple Care plan? That's a hard pill to swallow, even for the biggest tech enthusiasts. Mom, I just bought this incredible headset. It's only $3,500. Pause. Yeah, no, I can't use it outside, or for more than 2 hours at a time. But it's futuristic. Now, some people are saying the Vision Pro's flop isn't entirely Apple's fault. The timing might just suck. We're in an economic climate where people are prioritizing essentials over luxuries. $3,500 for a headset? That's groceries for months. Or, actual rent. And then there's the competition. Meta's Quest headsets may not be as powerful, but they're way more affordable. When people are choosing between $500 for a decent VR experience or $3,500 for Apple's, well, the choice is obvious. So, where does Apple go from here? Can they turn this around? Honestly, maybe Apple might just decide to surprise us. If Apple can lower the price with a Vision SE model, or better yet, create compelling apps that make people feel like they need this device, there's still hope. Remember, even the first Apple Watch didn't take off immediately. Apple's known for playing the long game. They iterate, they improve, and eventually they create products that define entire categories. So maybe the Vision Pro isn't a failure. It's just ahead of its time. But for now, the Vision Pro is a cautionary tale. Even the biggest tech giants can stumble if they overestimate what the market is ready for. What do you think? Will the Vision Pro eventually find its place, or is this one of those rare Apple missteps? At number 2 is Windows 11 24. H2. The update we hoped would make our lives easier, but instead made us question our life choices. Bugs. Bugs everywhere. Big ones, small ones, and ones so weird you'd think Windows hired sci-fi writers to code this update. Let's talk about what went wrong with Microsoft's latest release, and if there's any light at the end of this buggy tunnel. So October rolls around and Microsoft starts rolling out Windows 11.24 H2. But instead of celebrating a smoother, more efficient OS, users were greeted with chaos. Picture this. Menus flying off the top of the screen like they're trying to escape the update. Alt-tabbing slowing down so much you could make a cup of coffee before switching apps. And gamers, oh the poor gamers, facing performance issues that made their frames per second drop faster than my hopes during a Windows update. Now, let's be fair. The bugs didn't include catastrophic disasters like deleting your files or bricking your PC, thank goodness. But the sheer weirdness of these glitches, that's where things get spicy. And by spicy, I mean infuriating. Let's talk about germanium. No, not the metal. Germanium is the shiny new platform that Windows 11.24 H2 is built on. It's supposed to improve security and make the OS snappier. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. Overhauling the core of an operating system is like renovating your house while you're still living in it. Sure, you'll end up with a nicer kitchen, but in the meantime, there's dust everywhere, the plumbing doesn't work, and you might accidentally flood your basement. That's what 24H2 feels like. A bunch of side effects from too much tinkering under the hood. Menus flying off the screen? That's your virtual kitchen flooding. Alt-tabbing at a snail's pace? Yep, the plumbing's busted. And don't even get me started on the random crashes. Those are the metaphorical roof leaks of this update. Alright, let's give credit where it's due. The 24H2 update did bring some useful features. There's better snapping for multitasking, a refreshed settings menu, and some solid accessibility improvements. But let's be honest, nothing here screams game changer. It's like going to a concert and finding out the headliner canceled. But hey, at least the opening act is okay. The problem is, after all the hype about germanium and the potential for big changes, this update feels underwhelming. And when you pair that with all the bugs, well, you get what some people are calling a wobbly flop. Now, let's pour one out for the gamers. The performance issues in 24H2 hit them hard. Imagine booting up your favorite game, only to see frame drops and stuttering that make it borderline unplayable. And it wasn't just obscure indie titles, it was happening across the board. Oh cool, my Alt-tab just froze mid-match. Guess I'll lose my rank and my sanity. So, is 24H2 all doom and gloom? Not entirely. Microsoft is already rolling out patches to address the bugs, and Germanium does lay the groundwork for a more secure and responsive Windows experience. Eventually, think of it like planting a tree. Right now, it's just a sapling, and yeah, it's attracting bugs, but give it time, and it might grow into something solid. But until then, maybe hold off on that update if you can, and if you've already updated. Well, welcome to the club. We meet every Thursday to share our glitch stories and cry a little. At number 3 is GoPro Hero 2024, the budget action cam that fell flat. This action cam for beginners promises to be compact, affordable, and easy to use. But is it too easy? Like, so easy it forgets to be good easy? Let's break down what went wrong. Let's start with what GoPro was going for here. The Hero 2024 is clearly aimed at novices, those of you who've never touched an action cam before and just want something cheap and cheerful to document your adventures. It's small, lightweight, and as user-friendly as it gets. But here's the thing, good intentions don't always lead to good products. Because while GoPro might have nailed the budget part, they definitely dropped the ball on the quality part. Okay, let's talk image quality, because that's kind of the whole point of a camera, right? The GoPro Hero 2024 struggles hard in less than perfect lighting. While it does offer 4K recording, it's capped at 30 frames per second. For an action cam, you'd expect buttery smooth footage, but nope. This thing doesn't even try to keep up. For comparison, there are budget action cams out there at similar price points that offer better dynamic range, higher frame rates, and even stabilization that doesn't feel like you're riding a roller coaster. What's GoPro's excuse here? Now let's talk audio, or rather the lack of it. The GoPro Hero 2024 doesn't support external microphones, so you're stuck with the built-in mic. And let me tell you, it does not like wind. Imagine capturing a perfect cliff dive, only for your audio to sound like a hurricane's coming. It's a mood killer. And before you say, just fix it in post, let me remind you that this camera is aimed at beginners, people who probably don't have time or tools to deal with audio cleanup. It's a huge miss for an action cam in 2024. Now, here's where the compromises start piling up. The GoPro Hero 2024 only offers 3 recording modes. 3. No slow-mo, no fancy time-lapse options, just the basics. And even those basics feel basic. It's like ordering a pizza and getting only crust. Sure, it's still pizza, but where's the sauce? Where's the cheese? And don't even get me started on the lack of advanced stabilization. If you're biking down a trail or skiing, your footage will look more chaotic than a reality TV reunion anywhere. So who's the GoPro Hero 2024 really for? Maybe it's for someone who just wants to dip their toes into the action cam world without spending too much. But even then, there are better options out there. If you're a hobbyist or pro looking for quality, this isn't it. And if you're a beginner, the constant limitations might frustrate you more than they inspire you. Honestly, it feels like GoPro tried to make an entry-level product, but cut so many corners that they ended up with a triangle. Look, the GoPro Hero 2024 isn't terrible. It's small, easy to use, and affordable. But in trying to hit that beginner-friendly price point, GoPro sacrificed too much. The image quality isn't up to par, the audio struggles in real-world conditions, and the feature set is so limited it feels incomplete. At the end of the day, this isn't the worst product of 2024, but it's far from the best. If you're considering this as your first action cam, I'd recommend looking elsewhere, or saving up for one of GoPro's higher-end models. Alright, that's my take on the GoPro Hero 2024, a budget action cam that just didn't hit the mark. But what do you think? Have you tried it? Did it work for you, or did it leave you wanting more? At number 4 is the Humane AI pin, a futuristic flop? 15 minutes. Just because something looks like it belongs in a sci-fi movie doesn't mean it actually works in the real world. Spoiler alert, this one doesn't, at least not well. Let's give credit where it's due. The Humane AI pin is undeniably bold. The idea of a wearable AI assistant that clips onto your clothes with a built-in camera and a laser projector for a UI? That's next-level innovation. It's like they sat down and said, what if Siri and a projector had a baby? And then they made this. It's a tiny computer powered by AI, and you can use it almost entirely with voice commands. Oh, and when you need a screen? Just hold out your hand and it'll beam one right onto your palm. Sounds amazing, right? Well, as we'll see, the execution didn't quite live up to the pitch. Here's the thing. While the concept is futuristic, the actual product feels like it got stuck in beta testing. For starters, the AI assistant? Slow, like really slow. You ask it a question, and by the time it responds, you could have Googled the answer, made a coffee, and started a new Netflix series. And when it does respond, it's wrong a lot of the time. Imagine asking it for directions to the nearest coffee shop, and it sends you to a hardware store instead. Not exactly the kind of intelligence you're looking for in an AI assistant. Then there's the laser projector. Cool in theory, painful in practice. The UI it beams onto your hand? It's dim, hard to see in daylight, and downright clunky to use. You're better off pulling out your phone, which, funny enough, is exactly what this gadget is supposed to replace. And let's talk about the price. This thing is not cheap. For what you're getting, a slow, often wrong AI assistant with a glitchy UI, it's hard to justify the cost. I mean, for the same price, you could buy a really good smartphone that actually works reliably. To its credit, the design is gorgeous. It's compact, sleek, and very sci-fi chic. But good design can't save a bad product. It's like putting lipstick on a... well, you know. Here's the deal. The Humane AI pin is a glimpse into what the future could be. The idea of a wearable AI assistant that replaces your phone is undeniably exciting. But we're just not there yet. This device is slow, unreliable, and ultimately feels like a solution in search of a problem. Right now, your smartphone can do everything the Humane AI pin claims to do, and it does it better, faster, and for less money. So unless you're buying this as a collector's item or just really want to feel like a Starfleet officer, I'd say save your cash. Alright, that's the Humane AI pin, a gadget that might have been too ambitious for its own good. What do you think? Is this the future of personal tech or just a misstep on the way there? At number 5 is the AirPods Max 2024, because apparently a new color and a USB-C port count as innovation now. 4, showcasing the new colors like Midnight, and then Apple dropped the mic, or rather dropped the ball. The big upgrade for 2024? A USB-C port. Oh, and new colors, that's it. No improved sound quality, no better battery life, no new features at all. Just the same headphones, with a different connector. For $549. Apple even had the audacity to call this a new product. Look, I get it, USB-C is great. It's faster, more universal, and frankly, it should have been there in 2020. But calling this an upgrade is like repainting your car and trying to sell it as the new model. It's still the same car underneath. And then there's the price. $549 for headphones that were already expensive 4 years ago. Meanwhile, competitors like Sony and Bose have released newer, better headphones that cost significantly less. Apple isn't just pricing itself out of the market, it's practically begging people to look elsewhere. Sure, the AirPods Max still sound great, but for that price you expect more. At this point, Apple seems to have abandoned its high-end headphone line. It's like they're saying, here's something to tide you over while we focus on our Vision Pro. Honestly, it's disappointing. The AirPods Max 2024 are a case of too little, too late. They're not bad headphones, but they're definitely not worth the price. Or the hype. At number 6, let's talk about the Rabbit R1. This little guy debuted at CES 2024 with all the fanfare of an AI revolution. It's an AI companion device. A cute, retro-inspired gadget that promises to answer your questions, connect to the cloud, and be your digital best friend. Sounds fun, right? Except, it's not. The Rabbit R1 is the textbook definition of a solution in search of a problem. You ask it a question, it connects to the cloud, and then you wait. And wait. And wait. By the time it gives you an answer, you've already Googled it on your smartphone, which, spoiler alert, can do everything this device claims to do, but faster and better. Let's talk about the functionality fails. One of the biggest issues with the Rabbit R1 is its clunky interface. The scroll wheel, which is supposed to be its main selling point, is like trying to navigate a 1990s MP3 player. And let's not forget the manufacturer's claim that this experience can't be replicated on a smartphone. I mean, come on, it's 2024. We're all carrying around mini supercomputers in our pockets. Why would anyone want to lug around an extra device that does less? So, where does the Rabbit R1 stand? It's a cute idea, but ultimately it's a gimmick that doesn't solve any real problems. At number 7 is the Evie Ring, a wearable that marketed itself as the ultimate smart ring for women. It was bold, it was thoughtful, and on paper, it looked like a game changer. The open ring design was innovative, addressing finger size fluctuations, especially during times like pregnancy or hormonal changes. And finally, a wearable with no subscription fees. Evie positioned itself as an empowering, accessible tool designed for women by women. The promise? All the tracking features you'd want, from sleep and heart rate monitoring to period tracking and symptom journaling, bundled into an affordable and stylish little package. But as we've learned, sometimes good intentions don't translate into good execution. While the Evie Ring's design gets a solid A for effort, everything else felt half-baked. Let's start with the headline feature, period tracking. Sure, it tracks your cycle, but it does so in the most basic way imaginable. There's little depth, no predictive insights, and zero integrations with broader health platforms. And the symptom journaling? It's clunky. leaving many users feeling like they could have done better with an old-school notebook and pen. Then there's sleep tracking, arguably one of the most important metrics for wearable tech. Evie's sleep tracking, while functional, was far less accurate than competitors in the smart ring space. Tossing and turning? It'd mark that as restful sleep. And let's talk about activity tracking. It was so bare bones that you could barely call it a feature. Steps and calories were tracked, sure, but that's table stakes in 2024. What we didn't get was any real insight into how this data ties into broader wellness goals. Look, we're rooting for tech that prioritizes women's health, and the Evie Ring deserves credit for trying. But in a year when the competition like the Oura Ring Gen 4 and Samsung Galaxy Ring has raised the bar for what wearables can do, Evie's simplicity came across as a missed opportunity. The Evie Ring feels like a great concept stuck in 2022, not ready for 2024's smart ring landscape. At number 8 is Concord Sony's with its $200 million misstep. Imagine this. AI gaming project that spent 8 years in development, backed by the full weight of Sony's gaming empire, only to crash and burn within 2 weeks of launch. That's the tragic tale of Concord, the live service hero shooter that went from highly anticipated to completely abandoned. Faster than you can say, game over. Let's rewind. When Sony first announced Concord, they framed it as their answer to games like Overwatch and Valorant. The idea? A polished 5 versus 5 shooter where you own the game, rather than being trapped in the endless grind of battle passes and microtransactions. No pay-to-win mechanics, no endless updates squeezing you for cash. It sounded refreshing, right? But then August rolled around and Concord launched. And let me tell you, it was DOA, dead on arrival. Host, player counts were abysmal. I'm talking single-digit lobbies, folks. Within just 2 weeks, Sony pulled the plug on Concord's servers and refunded every player who'd bought the game. And as if things couldn't get worse, Firewalk Studios, the developer behind Concord, was shut down entirely by October. So what went wrong? Critics and players alike pointed to the game's core design, bland maps, uninspired characters, and gameplay that lacked originality. It felt like a Frankenstein mashup of every successful shooter before it, with none of the heart or innovation that makes those games great. Even the character designs, arguably the most important part of a hero shooter, failed to connect with players. Instead of building compelling heroes, Concord gave us a roster that felt generic and forgettable. It's sad, really. Concord wasn't just a failed game. It was a failed investment, a failed vision, and a harsh reminder that even the biggest budgets can't guarantee success. Sony spent hundreds of millions on this project, and in the end, they got nothing but a cautionary tale. Number 9 is Fisker Ocean, an EV stranded in trouble. Electric vehicles are supposed to represent the future, a cleaner, smarter, and more reliable way to drive. But the Fisker Ocean, it became the poster child for what happens when that vision goes horribly wrong. Launched in 2023 with high hopes, this $69,000 EV aimed to disrupt the market. Instead, it disrupted the lives of its owners. Let's talk about the issues. Over 100 reported incidents of sudden power loss. Brakes that would just stop working. Doors that refused to open. And this one's my personal favorite. Cars that would roll away while parked. The Ocean wasn't just unreliable, it was downright dangerous. Things hit rock bottom in June 2024 when Fisker filed for bankruptcy and suspended all production. That left existing Ocean owners in the lurch. No software updates, no repairs, no support. If you owned one, you were basically left with a very expensive paperweight on wheels. Look, the EV space is competitive, and we're all for innovation. But the Fisker Ocean was a stark reminder that cutting corners on safety and reliability is a recipe for disaster. If you can't trust your car to stop, or even to stay parked, what's the point? Well. At number 10 is the Sonos app, a streamlined mess. Sonos has long been a household name for audio lovers, known for its premium speakers and intuitive software. But in May 2024, the company decided to overhaul its app. And let's just say it did not go well. What should have been a streamlined upgrade turned into a buggy, feature-stripped mess that left users fuming. Basic features like sleep timers, alarms, and song queue editing? Gone. Accessibility features like screen reader compatibility for blind users? Nope, not there either. It felt like the developers forgot who their audience was, or that they even had one. To their credit, Sonos did listen to the backlash. By October, they'd restored most of the missing features, but the damage was done. Rolling out an app that felt like a beta release was a huge misstep, especially for a company with Sonos' reputation. Alright, that's it for 10 of 2024's biggest tech letdowns, or should we call it, what were they thinking? Which tech flop do you think should have been on this list? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon.